My goodness, there's a lot going on in Cleveland right now. We're going to dive into all of it on today's show. Coming up, officially, the round of interviews for the Cleveland Browns. Second interviews, that is. Who's moving on in this process? By the way, the Cleveland Browns can't officially make a hire yet. Why is that? We're going to break down the NFL Rooney Rule and where things stand for Cleveland. When can they officially make this decision? Finally, are the Cleveland Browns losing members of their staff from 2025? Some of you might think this is actually good news. We are going to look at all of it on today's show. I'm your host, Joey O'Donohue. Welcome into the Browns Report. Let's just hop right into it because of how much there is to get to, folks. The first thing is Adam Schefter says, the Browns have now requested a second head coaching interview with Jaguars OC Grant Udinski, this time in person per sources. Udinski would become the youngest NFL head coach ever hired if he lands the job at just 30 years old. You know who else was 30 years old when they got hired? Sean McVay, folks. Is it the next Sean McVay? Well, let's talk about him a little bit as a candidate because, like I said, he's the current offensive coordinator for the Jaguars. Before that, he was an assistant with the Vikings. He essentially shadowed Kevin O'Connell and saw what it was to be a head coach. I mean, he said that he traveled around with O'Connell like day in, day out, see what head coach preparation is like. And what's so interesting about this report from Schefter is Yadinsky interviewed with the Browns Saturday, okay? And Schefter says Sunday that they're moving on already and want to see him in person. Other sources have said that that virtual interview lasted the full 3 hours. Now, I don't know how true those sources are, but that has been reported as well. So it's a fast turnaround. We know Cleveland has been interested in him. Peter Schrager says there's some real buzz here, and he's known as an up-and-coming coach at 30 years old, very highly regarded in NFL circles. He hasn't called plays yet before, but here's what Kevin O'Connell had to say about when he interviewed Grant. Interviewing Grant was like interviewing a guy who could build a car from scratch for a job at a car wash. I mean, does that not sound exactly like what Cleveland needs right now? Someone who's just a smart, young mind that could rebuild this thing. And I looked at the updated coaching odds for the next Browns head coach. All of a sudden, Yadinsky is the favorite. He's minus 150. All right? Jim Schwartz is second on that list. McDaniel, Sean McDermott's in the mix for Cleveland as well, as is Todd Monken. And for some reason, Tommy Rees, he's not in the mix at all for this at all. But look at the top five there. Maybe consider those names and Yadinsky being at the top. A lot of buzz, like Schrager tells us, for Yadinsky and even Scheelhaase to be in the Browns mix. But when you see that he's the favorite all of a sudden, the 30-year-old, what comes to mind? Comment your one-word reaction down below to Yadinsky being the favorite to be the next Browns head coach. Give me one word in the comment section that immediately you thought when you saw those updated odds. Let me know in the comment section. My take on the matter, I think if there's any team that could take a swing on a potential next Sean McVay, it's the Cleveland Browns right now. He would absolutely take a head coach jump. It's a big jump for a non-play calling OC. But what if we keep Jim Schwartz, who's been a head coach before, can mentor young Yadinsky a little bit on some of the leadership aspects, and just use his smart, genius offensive mind that he studies like heck, has been working with Liam Cohen, has worked with Kevin O'Connell. I kind of like the idea of Cleveland taking a swing. If there's a team that can do it now. Get this jump. If it doesn't work, you get somebody else in a couple years. But I think it's worth this swing for what this guy could be. Mary Kay says that here's the next update for you on Jim Schwartz getting a second interview with the Cleveland Browns on Monday. But Tommy Rees not expected to interview a second time at this point. So Schwartz is moving on. Rees isn't. And here's the thing with Tommy Rees is Mary Kay also tells us she's hearing that Tommy Rees might have a chance to join Kevin Stefanski wherever he goes. Remember, she put this out a couple days ago when Stefanski was getting his second interview with the Falcons. Well, that's official, folks. Obviously, he's the head coach in Atlanta now, and it seems like he may bring Tommy Rees with him. All right, we'll talk about Jim Schwartz first. Now that we have it confirmed that he's getting a second interview, I love Jim Schwartz. I love what he has done with the Cleveland Browns, what our defense has been. Absolutely, I'm all in on keeping Jim Schwartz. My only concern with him being head coach now, well, why didn't the Browns listen to me and fire Stefanski mid-season? You could have promoted Schwartz then and there and got a taste of what he was, what he could be as a head coach, as an interim. Doing it now feels a little bit weird, no? But I do know that the Browns will do what they can to keep him. There's reports that they are telling candidates they want Jim Schwartz to stay at DC when you come on. You can't bring your own DC, which is a slippery slope, which is why, again, I think it's all the more likely they take a swing on a younger guy that's like, yeah, sure, we'll keep Jim Schwartz. And I think that could be beneficial for both parties. And honestly, when you break it down, it's kind of simple. They want a new head coach who will keep Jim Schwartz. If the candidates they like won't do it, well, then they will promote Jim Schwartz in order to keep him. I think that's the direction Cleveland is headed in. We're interviewing younger guys. Hey, can you come on, bring your OC, fix the offense, but keep Jim Schwartz with you? If candidates aren't keen to that, then they'll just promote Jim Schwartz for this year. So look out for that, Browns fans. But let's talk about the Tommy Rees part of that report, right? He's not getting a second interview. He got the one, and the Browns said, well, we don't need to move forward with you, Tommy, as a head coach candidate. So I don't expect Rees to be back. I think he will travel with Stefanski, or our new head coach is going to bring in a different offensive coordinator that isn't going to be Tommy Rees. So I think that might have just been, 1 year of Rees here as Cleveland's OC. And like I said, new head coach will have that choice. So to me, it's pretty obvious that Rees is not going to be here, even though it was reported by Mary Kay that he was seen as an offensive genius in the Browns building. That doesn't seem to be very true. They're cool with letting him go. And that's probably what's going to unfold. But speaking of other staff members that are leaving Cleveland, guys, I told you we got a lot today. This just came out from Tom Pelissero. The Chiefs are hiring Chad O'Shea as their wide receivers coach. Per source, O'Shea got into the NFL as a volunteer assistant with Kansas City in 2003. 2 decades later, he's back as Andy Reid remodels his offensive staff. I think this is great news for the Browns, quite frankly. Get him out of here. Get rid of our offensive line coach, too, while you're at it. I mean, the wide receiver room was terrible this year. The decline from Jerry Jeudy from 24 to 2025 needs to be studied. The fall off, get him out of here. We need new weapons, new guy that can coach up those weapons. So take him, Kansas City. Take him off our hands. That is official from Tom Pelissero. Next in the Browns coaching search update, Jeremy Fowler says that the Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken will interview with the Browns in person Tuesday. This is Monken's second interview with the team. So Todd Monken is moving on in the process, folks, okay? So that's 3 rounds of second interviews that I've got for you, and I've got more for you here on the back half of the show. But Monken's path, according to Fowler, is pretty simple. You see out this head coaching opportunity. He's in the mix in Cleveland, and he could sort out other OC options if he doesn't get a Browns head coach job. Because the report is that Harbaugh wants to bring Monken with him to the New York Giants, that they're a tandem. They want to work together. But if Monken is given a head coach opportunity that he wants, obviously Harbaugh's not going to stop him from pursuing his career, him rising up the ranks. So, to Fowler's point, we could poach Monken from Harbaugh if we wanted to, Browns fans. We will see how he progresses, but he's getting a second interview, and he's very much in this mix. I do think it's less likely that the Browns go in that direction, but I'm not ruling it out, considering he is going to interview with the Browns once again. It is also confirmed that Cleveland will interview Mike McDaniel once more, this time in person, his second interview for the Cleveland Browns. And I got to say one thing about Mike McDaniel, okay? We got a photo of him in the airport when he was on his way to Tennessee. This man is dripped out. All right? I mean, look at the suit that Mike McDaniel's rocking. He's got a watch on, okay, an all-matching suit. I got to give credit where credit's due, but your boy Joey O comes dripped out as well, okay? Let's not play some games here. I mean, check out the watch I'm rocking when I get cleaned up. All right? I also got a sweet ride, okay, in my Ferrari. Ohio, welcome me in. Well, I'm dripped out, iced out, okay? Your boy knows how to show up and show up fancy. So I just wanted to throw that out there, all right, when we're talking about candidates. Who you think's got the better drip? Let's get this going in the comment section, all right? And if you're older, you don't know what drip means, it's style, okay? It's the flash. Based on what you just saw from your boy Joey O, let me know down below. Mike McDaniel, MM, or type J-O. If you think Joey O'Donoghue's got the better drip, comment down below. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about other second interviews that are confirmed for the Cleveland Browns and why they can't make a hire right now. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, hey, the Giants and Falcons already hired their guys. Why hasn't Cleveland picked one yet? I'm going to tell you why that's actually not possible until after next week. But first, we're going to look at our friends over at Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. I love this app. It's a lot of fun. I win money. I make lineups every week. I've been crushing it with more on quarterback passing touchdowns this playoffs. Since I can't watch my favorite team anymore for a while, I need a way to stay entertained during these games, have something to root for. Prize Picks helps me do that. And are you missing your fantasy team? My league's already over, but with Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 sports picks app. My lineup for the weekend, it's got Drake May on it for more than 199.5 passing yards. Let's also go with Cooper Kupp, more than 1.5 receptions, and Devontae Adams, more than 3.5 receptions. You can make a lineup just like that if you download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right. Okay, so I mentioned that the Browns can't make a hire right now. Let's talk about the NFL Rooney Rule and what this actually entails. So basically, NFL teams are required to interview 2 minority candidates, external minority candidates, when you have a head coach vacancy, and those interviews have to be in person. The Browns' first rounds of interviews were all virtual, okay? So we have not satisfied this requirement yet. Now, we've satisfied one element of it in Mike McDaniel, okay? And you're probably sitting there thinking like, well, how the hell does that work? Actually, Mike McDaniel's dad is black, so he does qualify as a minority candidate. And I do think that McDaniel ends up taking an offensive coordinator job, probably not in Cleveland, probably elsewhere. It's been reported that he'd rather, go to Tampa Bay, right, with Baker, our old guy, and try to revamp an offense that has some pieces, okay, rather than take a head coach job. But I'll keep you posted on if he is in this mix. So, could Cleveland satisfy this requirement soon? Well, they could with Nate Scheelhaase. I also have the report that the Browns are going to interview Scheelhaase a second time, and this would satisfy the Rooney Rule. But what's the catch here? Because they can't actually interview Scheelhaase for a little while. Talk about that in a moment, but I think it's a sneaky good candidate for the Browns. Okay, don't sleep on Nate Scheelhaase. I mentioned the Schrager report about Yadinsky. Scheelhaase was included about that there's buzz around him being connected to Cleveland. And he's been under Sean McVay the past 2 seasons, okay? He's worked under Matt Campbell from 2018 to 2023. Also played quarterback at Illinois, right? So he is going to be a smart offensive mind. And anyone that's been under Sean McVay, that's who you want to go out and get in today's NFL. The Shanahan, McVay products. So I like this a lot. Maybe he's a better offensive coordinator. That could be sneaky. But if he's going to take an OC job, well, some say he might go to Pittsburgh or another team that's requesting him to interview. But I don't know. Pittsburgh doesn't have it figured out this year at quarterback as much as we don't. So look out for Scheelhaase to be a sneaky name in Cleveland. But like I said, there's a catch because we cannot interview or make an offer for Scheelhaase till January 26th. With the Rams defeating the Bears, the Browns won't be permitted to interview pass game coordinator Nate Scheelhaase in person until after the NFC Championship game next Sunday. So Cleveland playing a little bit of the waiting game here before we can offer a coach that we really like. We can't be one of the teams like the Falcons that get the jump and say, hey, they really wanted Stefanski. They made him an offer before he could interview with Tennessee again, right? Cleveland's going to be one of the later teams to get this done. Probably not going to have a head coach for another week and a half, folks. But we will have updates every day. So like I said, make sure you subscribe. Here's another one for you. Jesse Minter is set to get a second interview with the Cleveland Browns. Minter moves on in this process. And I think Minter is actually a very interesting candidate. He is very highly spoken of from NFL executives and a lot of different league sources. Okay, like a lot of people do like Jesse Minter. I'm hearing that the Raiders, may be interested in Minter as well. So look out for him and his defensive mind. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive to what I think I might want in Cleveland, but look out for Minter, who Jordan Schultz has also said is the hottest candidate right in this pool. So take a look out for Minter. Minter, who is the current defensive coordinator for the Chargers, has worked with both Jim and John Harbaugh since 2017. Why is that? Because he was the Michigan defensive coordinator, okay? He won a national championship in college football. So for all of us that really wanted Harbaugh, well, Minter might be the next best thing. And like I said, he's getting a lot of buzz. But if I had to pick, I think that Minter would probably be the Ravens' next head coach, or even Raiders. I think he's getting a lot of looks over there. But he's moving on with Cleveland's process, so they must have liked what they heard. Folks, those are your updates. Those are the 6 Yes, count them, 6 candidates that are moving on in the Browns head coach process. And now with Sean McDermott available, Joe Brady available, maybe they add even more. But do you like any of the names that have been presented today? Be the GM for me. Play the role of the owner, Jimmy Haslam. Comment down below a name that you like for the Cleveland Browns to be their next head coach. Very curious where the Brownies stand on this ongoing head coach search. Let me know down below. Also, give me a follow on X, Joey070. I'm going to be tweeting updates as well. All right. So if you want some quick news, you want to keep talking about it with me, hit me up over there on social media. And as always, hit that subscribe button. Do not miss out, folks. This is coming to a close probably next week. So I'll have daily updates, news, and rumors for you guys. Really appreciate you all tuning in to this edition of the Browns Report, and I'll see you next time.